All right, so welcome everybody to the final part of our four-part series on VA home loans. Again, we have the pleasure of having Bobby Jones from CMG Financial joining us today. She is the financial expert when it comes to VA home loans. So we'll be asking Bobby some questions about our last combined topic. So again, thank you, Bobby, for being here with us.
Hi, everybody.
So our final topic for today is general VA questions, and then we'll complete that with VA rehab loan options. Okay, so for general questions, since there isn't a down payment for a VA loan, will I need any money to purchase a home?
You don't need any money for a down payment, as most loan options do have, but there are closing costs associated with any type of real estate transaction. The good thing about the VA is they don't have a limit, like some programs do, for how much the seller can pay. But your Rob can negotiate with the seller to pay a portion, if not all of the closing cost. Mm-hmm. And what's really nice is, I don't know if any of you have talked to veterans that have bought a home, and they talk about how they got money back at closing. Well, there are certain monies you have to pay up front for services rendered prior to closing. But if we negotiate the seller to pay all of the closing costs, you might get a portion of what you spent up front back at the closing table.
Yeah, that was another one of the myths that I had, because you hear all the time, it doesn't cost anything to get a VA loan. Well, that's not necessarily true. What is true is there isn't a down payment, but there are associated closing costs.
Yes.
As Bobby was saying, we can negotiate to have a seller pay for all or portion of that, and it is a bit of a bonus when you're sitting at the closing table and you get a little bit of a check back. So that's nice to buy those blinds that you didn't think about and other things around a brand new home.
Right. Perfect.
Okay, second question. What happens if I get orders and I don't want to sell the home? Can I use the property as an investment property? Is that allowed? Can I do that?
Yes, you can. You can't buy a home as an investment property. You have to buy it as owner occupied. But if you get orders, or you opt out of the military and you move back home, or whatever you choose to do, you can retain that home. And I highly recommend getting the services of Rob and his team to manage it. But yes, you can.
And so do I need to occupy the home that I'm purchasing?
When you purchase it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and should I put money down on a VA loan? So I know I don't have to.
You don't have to, but remember the VA funding fee we talked in a previous series. That VA funding fee does reduce with a down payment.
I'm sure there's a table or a scale out there that can be researched to find out how much, if I put this much down, how much will it reduce the VA funding fee?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Generally, it's when you put 10% down, it goes to like 1.65, something like that. But I like to utilize the max when it comes to a mortgage, versus having ancillary debt. I'd rather you pay off ancillary debt with that money you would like to put down. And the reason I say that is because the mortgage interest and the property taxes, of course, are a tax write-off, but ancillary debt isn't. So when people say that to me, I suggest that if they do have ancillary debt, take that money they wanted to use as a down payment and pay it off, because generally it's a higher interest rate and it's not a tax write-off.
And when you're referring to ancillary debt, you're talking about credit cards and those type of
credit cards, cars,
revolving credit, those type of things, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, and the last question under general questions, what does it mean to finance through the VA? Because they're not a bank. So what exactly does that mean? I've heard the term it's VA guaranteed, but what does that mean?
So when people want a VA loan, this is what I've been told. is I called the VA and they said I'm eligible for. And I'm like, well, they probably told you you have eligibility, and that's a little different than what you're eligible for. The VA does not lend money. They do guarantee the loan to the lender in the event of a default. They're a government agency. So that's what that VA funding fee helps cover. It goes into a pool. So if they ever do have to guarantee the balance to the lender, they pull it out of that funding fee pool of money.
Okay. All right, so we're going to switch topics just a little bit because I get this question all the time, or questions about this topic all the time are the VA rehab options. So are there VA loan options or products out there that I can use to purchase a bank-owned property or foreclosed property that needs a little bit of work and fix it up? Is that possible? So
It is. Yeah.
That's exactly just running right into the question. Can a veteran purchase a home that needs work and finance, and then finance the cost of the renovations into the loan?
Yes, if it is a home, it's bank owned or a foreclosure that does need repairs to bring it to that VA standard that we talked about earlier, you can do what's called a VA rehab loan. They are offered out there. And what it does, it takes the purchase price plus the cost of the rehab, and you settle on the loan, and then they give you a certain amount of time to get the repairs completed. They have to be completed by a licensed contractor. You cannot do your own repairs. Even if you are a contractor, you're not allowed to do your own repairs. But you have to, in your qualification for the loan amount, it can't be any more, the cost and the repairs can't be any more than the total amount you qualify for.
Yeah, so I heard you mention that it has to have a contractor, but it has to be a VA qualified contractor, just like an FHA. When you're doing a rehab for an FHA, that has to be FHA approved. Same with
Yes.
the VA, it has to be a VA.
It can't be your brother. It can't be a family member. Even if they have a license, they do check.
So I think the good news is that distressed properties are on the table. Again, that's another myth that I had before, was that if a home needed work, it was pretty much off the table. And that's
Right. They had to be that perfect property. They don't.
ready. Yeah. What about some minor updates if I wanted some new appliances or I wanted to paint or those type of things? Are those things covered in that as well? Can I finance those things in?
They are. It's what you can't do for a traditional rehab loan is you can't put a pool in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I'm trying to think of things you can't do.
A pole barn or
A pole, right? Yeah, a pole barn's good.
Yeah.
A shed. You can't do those. It has to be something that's going to bring the value up or the standard of the home up. Now, what you do have to be careful of when you do a rehab loan is that whatever you're doing, okay, brings the value of the property up according to the cost of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is if the house is 200 and your rehab is 10, then that appraisal has to come in. It can't come in at 205 because then they're not going to approve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being
said, sometimes, and you can do septics with it, right? But sometimes a septic truly doesn't give value to a home. It just makes it habitable. I had a rehab loan one time. They put a septic in, and it didn't increase the value of the home as much as the septic cost.
That makes sense. I mean, that's just something that's a necessary system that has to be included in the house. So,
right. Mm-hmm.
All right. So that concludes part 4 of our 4-part series. If you listen to any one of these series, any one of these videos in the series, we appreciate you taking the time. We hope you gain some level of information out of it. as I mentioned in all the videos, if you have any questions or if it sparked any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Bobby anytime. Or you can just comment below, and we'll be sure to answer any questions that you have. Again, thank you so much. Thank you to Bobby for taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you around town.
Thank you for your time.
Good.
You're still recording.
Oh, am I?